Hey guys, wanted to make a quick video about my Arlen-Ness Big Sucker intake. So I had the Big Sucker 2, and this is what it looked like. The filter, pretty big. By comparison, the regular Big Sucker, not the 2. The stage 1, stage 2, they use those terms. Anyway, this is more than adequate for the 1200 engine. This is just ginormous. So I had this thing on the side. This was the cover. Just looked like a big flying saucer on the side of my bike. Never really liked that. Got the smaller one. This all started, by the way, from me being in a rainstorm. Anyway, the new filter is synthetic, doesn't need to be oiled, and much more resistant to water, doesn't need a rain sock. That's how I ended up with it. So here's what I wanted to show. This is the backing plate. All I really needed was to change the filter, the cover, and these studs are shorter. These are called offset bolts or standoff bolts. And that's really all I needed. But I bought the whole kit, and I'm glad I did, because this was the old backing plate. I did not realize it, but it was cracked on one of these 3 spots. And then down here, I put my own crack in it. And I think this just got really brittle or something. It's some kind of aluminum. It's been on the bike for 10 years. I don't really know what the story is, but it broke. So I had the new backing plate. However, this one, you can see that has holes in the top, little holes. It had the overflow, the external breather. So the person who put this on the bike drilled those holes out, tapped them, put in some fittings, and had hose running down to the ground. He then filled in the 2 holes where the oil would typically come from, so that oil would not come down into the intake. So that was what I wanted to keep, but I wanted to do a cleaner job. His used to stick up here, and you didn't really notice them too much with the bigger filter, but now with the smaller filter, they were really noticeable. So I bought some brass hose barbs. The part with the threads that you see is an NPT fitting, and I believe it goes by inside diameter, so as big as that looks, it's actually just considered a 1/4 inch. And then on the other end, I went with something very small. Most of these for bikes are a 1/4 inch and then 1/4 inch down here. I went with an 1/8 inch down here. There's really no reason for a big hose down here. So I started with just measuring, about the middle of this spot here, marked it with a Sharpie, drilled a very small starter pilot hole, and just kept going up in drill bit size until I got up to this guy, which I think was 11/32s or something like that. And then I used a $14 Harbor Freight tap and die kit, which comes with like 40 pieces, and I just used this one tap and tapped the hole on each side. And it took a little while because I haven't done this in like 30 years, but when that was all done, I screwed them in just far enough to be flush with the inside. That's why there's a lot of extra threads. Then down here I got a T, a brass T, 1/8 inch all around. The original install had 2 hoses on here. It didn't have the T. I just went with the T, and I used to have 2 overflow, or the 2 breather hoses come down here. I was always getting oil down here. I hated it. So I haven't cleaned it up yet. But now, it's just one little hose here, goes across to the other side, and it comes down where the brake cylinder is, and I could probably cut a little off. You see, and it's kind of dark, but there's a little bit of goo and a little drop on the ground, so it's working. So I've seen a lot of videos on how to install the Arlen-Ness filter, air intake, but not on how to do the external breather. So the last thing I had to do was just fill in these 2 little holes here with some black silicone gasket cement. I don't think it gets too terribly hot out here, but it's working. So basically, if you want to do this yourself, you just have to be patient, get the right tools. You put the backing plate on, use a torque wrench, use blue thread lock. These two big guys attach it to the cylinders. These little guys attach it to, I guess, what you'd call the intake or the manifold. I'm not sure exactly what. But anyway, that is how that part goes. As far as the filter itself, you just gotta, only goes one way. That looks like the way right there. It has 3 pretty small screws, which I will install now. Alright, that's all there is to that. They don't go very tight at all, so no need to go crazy. The torque wrench is actually protection for making it too tight for me. I've been known to destroy things. And there we go, 55. And we're good. So there it is, stage 1, Arlen-Ness intake, overflow breather, keeps your cylinders nice and clean. Highly recommend it.